Welcome back, everyone, to a new movie spoiler review here on Max Talks Movies. And today we're going to talk about all spoilers as pertaining to Avatar: The Way of Water, the 13-year sequel in the making from James Cameron and Disney. We're going to break it all down. The film, obviously 3 hours, so we'll go as kind of the main points, but this is a breakdown. There's no general, I'll have my things I liked and didn't like, but no score. You can check out my other review, but this is a breakdown of Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm Max Stenberg. Welcome to Max Talks Movies. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show every single week. So please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new, comment down below. First of all, if obviously this is a spoiler-filled review, so go into your spoiler thoughts in the comment section down below. There are tons to talk about. What are your overall thoughts? What did you connect with? What maybe if you were disappointed by this movie, what did you not connect with in this film? Tell me, what do you want to see the most from Avatar 3 coming out December of 2024? And also, please like the video, guys. The thumbs up button, that's how you support this channel. If this is your first video, thank you so much for joining me. I have already done on Saturday a non-spoiler review of Avatar: The Way of Water. So if you're looking for that, I'll put it at a link at the end of this video. It's currently on my channel. It's on the most recent playlist of movie reviews. It's one of my most recent uploads. So you guys can get there on my channel. So this is full spoilers. So if you've not seen both Avatar 1 and Avatar: The Way of Water, full spoilers for this review. And let's get into this. Could be a bit of a lengthy review. So I had, if my general thoughts, actually, before I get into the movie, if you didn't check out my non-spoiler review or just waiting for me to talk about spoilers, I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was a very much a better movie for me than the first film. I didn't really hold the first film to as high regard as a lot of people did, especially at the time. And I was 7 years old when I saw the first Avatar film in theaters. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a very solid movie. I think it's a great way to introduce us to the world of Pandora. But it had a little bit too many cartoonish characters in the background. The human stuff just wasn't that interesting as compared to when they're with the Na'vi people. But there are a lot of things that I loved in that film, but a lot more issues. And I think that film is a lot more flawed than the film that we got that came out this year. I really loved Avatar: The Way of Water. And I think it's a great breakthrough for James Cameron, building off of, really, which is what he should do. I don't think the first one was trying to be the greatest film of all time. It's supposed to set up these other films coming in the next 8 years. And I think that's what this film continues to build on. So obviously, at the end of the first act of this movie is kind of the setup of the story, which is that now the movie did take place 13 years after the first film. We have a couple of things going back and forth. So now Jake and Neytiri have these kids. They have 4 total kids, in which, 3, if you want to count Spider as a kid, we'll get into Spider in a second. But you have these 3 kids. 2 of them are biological. 4 kids. 3 of them are biologically to both Jake and Neytiri. Then you have, Kiri, who is based off of Grace's Sigourney Weaver's from the first film. So she's kind of a mixture of the Na'vi people and Grace's Avatar. And they're kind of just, Jake is the ruler of the place after the ending of the first film. But now the humans are coming back. The sky people are coming back, as now it's led by Stephen Lang as Quaritch, who obviously as a human form died at the end of the first film. It explained kind of off the bat why he is back. He's back because, of course, he had a backup plan in case he died, that for his other avatar to finish his journey. Now, it's not really Stephen Lang, as he says throughout the film. It is Stephen Lang performing him, but it's the memories that are in him, not the actual. He hasn't gone through the things that the human character went through. But he becomes, again, the main villain for our second movie in a row, and he was thoroughly entertaining. So we kind of have that back and forth. And then there's a huge scene where Quaritch and his people are capturing Jake and Neytiri's kids, and this is where, Jake and Neytiri kind of save the day. But at this point, Jake's kind of like, this is done. Like, they're back for us. They're hunting us. And Jake's kind of like, we have to protect, you know, all the Sky people are back. You have Quaritch after us specifically. He's like, we just have to bail because they're just coming for us, and we just have to protect our family. And this way, you know, Neytiri kind of pushes back, and she's like, well, I mean, this is our home. Yeah, obviously for her, it's been her home her whole life. And Jake's kind of like, you know, our family's our home, family's our fortress. And this is when they leave. And go, and at this point, also Quaritch captures Spider, who's one of the human characters who hangs out with Jake and Neytiri's kids a lot, and he's kind of one of their family members. But he's human, and we learn that he is Quaritch's son very early on in the film, which was another good added reveal to add to his storyline as well. So this weird show, we kind of branch off. Quaritch is kind of in with the humans, trying to break down their plan. So the first act is very much driven by a back and forth between our heroes and our villains. And then the second act is kind of just setting up the sea people, setting up their world. And then the third act is kind of that last big fight. Now, from this point on, I think the first act was really great. I think the second act is definitely drags a lot, because it's very similar to the first film, where very similar to the first, you know, the first film, Jake had to learn the ways of the Na'vi people through Neytiri. This time, it's really the kids, and sometimes you see Jake learning the way of these sea people here, the Sea Na'vi tribe. So it's a second street movie where our main character or characters are learning about a whole new culture. So that definitely holds the story up for parts. They do keep the back and forth kind of continuing in the film. It continues with the son, Loak, who's played by Britton Dalton, who is my favorite, one of my favorite new characters into this film. So Loak and Jake have always had this back and forth where, you know, Loak kind of gets himself in trouble. The older son, he is always just, he's kind of trying to become Jake 2.0. And Loak is kind of has a thing for this girl in the sea tribe. He finds this whale who is seen as an outcast to this tribe. He keeps getting himself in trouble, and him and his father just have such a hit or miss relationship, more miss, with Jake being just very commander-like to him, not like a father-son relationship, which I found actually really relatable. I know this is different and it is war, but I know it's definitely the exaggerated version of this, but I found it not relatable, but I could see a lot of people finding, and it just felt like a real, actually a father-son relationship. While they weren't acting like father and son for like 90% of the movie, they did feel like father and son. I think that was really crucial, because really Loak is probably the main character of the movie. Shockingly, Jake and especially Neytiri take a back seat in this movie. Really, Neytiri does the most. She was easily the second lead character, but she's definitely way farther in the back seat in this film, which I didn't really love. She's my favorite character in this franchise. So all this is going on. Quaritch is kind of gaining his people. Spider's kind of telling him all this information about Jake and where they could be. And then this sets up really the best part of it, which is the last hour of this movie. Is some of the best third acts you'll see in a movie in a really long time. I think I know Spider-Man No Way Home, but other than that, this is one of the best third acts in a movie in a really long time. And if the last hour is, for me, phenomenal in this movie. And the big thing why is that the action scenes are so much better in this film than the first film. Because it was a lot of just Na'vi and human fighting in the first film, there wasn't a whole lot of speciality to those action scenes. It was beautiful with the, you know, the characters riding up, but the action scenes were good. They weren't like these revolutionary action scenes. And it was a lot of Na'vi on Na'vi fight sequences, and it was tons of fun to watch. Sometimes you really just can't believe these are motion capture performances, especially when they were deep in that ship. There was a scene of like Neytiri with Kiri underneath the ship, and I just could not believe these are CGI basically characters and not human actors. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I think this franchise works, is that these don't just feel like fully fledged out CGI characters. They feel like performances because they are performances. I know a lot of people might not want to talk about that, but these are performances. These are motion capture performances. These are excellent performances from, Zoe Saldana, who always destroys his Terry, but Stephen Lang, who now does the motion capture for the first time. He's really fantastic in the film. So is Cliff Curtis. So is Kate Winslet. So is, as I talked about earlier, Brittany Cowell. Not Brittany Cowell, sorry. By my Britton Dalton as Loak. So there's a lot of fun, really great performances. I do want to say that because for someone like me who loves animation, even voice acting for me is a performance, and especially motion capture, these are real performances from these actors. And if you look behind the scenes, you would understand it. So it does really get out these great performances. Oh, so the big part of the third act, it really begins with Quaritch keep calling out Jake, and he just wants to kill Jake Sully at this point. And this then leads to the family's oldest son, who probably got the least amount of screen time out of the entire family. He gets killed at the beginning of this fight scene. Him and the two brothers and the actual biological kid, they were all captured by Quaritch, and the oldest son gets killed. And this is in my opinion, a very emotional scene. I think a lot of it comes from Zoe Saldana's performance, who brought out a lot of emotion out of you. You know, you might not have cared about her father in the first film. She really brings that emotion out of you. And just again with her son dying, she also brings out a lot of the emotion. And her performance is so excellent in the third act, because once her son dies, she is on a complete warpath to kill Quaritch for the remainder of the movie. Jake kind of tries to calm her down, but once she goes off, she is pretty much in kill mode for the remainder of the film, which I loved to see. So as this keeps going, you really do feel like our characters are in danger. Neytiri and Kiri are kind of trapped, and they're about to get flooded at the bottom of the ship. Jake and Quaritch have basically drowned. They're both kind of passed out at the bottom of the ocean. But this is where Loak kind of comes in and saves his father. I thought that is a very excellently, obviously it's predictable. It's not anything breakthrough in story, but emotionally, I think it really works. And I think the Loak-Jake relationship is one of the stronger aspects of the film, of kind of, Jake understanding the difference between being the general of a whole tribe and trying to be the general really of his family, to then understanding when it's good to be a father as well. And those two things are just not the same thing. And I think Jake realizing that in this scene was the dichotomy of being the military general, but taking that over to his family, even Neytiri thinking he's going too far with his kids, to then that point as well. But everyone does survive, except obviously for the oldest son. This also is where Spider, who's Quaritch's son, does indeed save Quaritch at the end of the day, but he leaves Quaritch. He saves him, but he does not go with him. He goes back to Jake and his family, and they're all very much still mourning the oldest son's death at the end of the film. And a really beautiful scene here of someone dying. I think this is even more well done than, even Grace's death in the first film, with, the sea people going under the ocean in this situation. And then Neytiri and Jake basically seeing their son in that memory that we saw to begin the film, is how we end his story, and Jake and Neytiri getting their way just to interact with their son. So very similar to Eywa. So that's how we kind of end the movie, which I really enjoyed this film. As I said, I really loved Avatar: The Way of Water. There's a lot of things to continue upon on. The biggest question moving forward, I guess, is if Quaritch will be the main villain again. Again, he was kind of turning around with Spider, but again, he was on full-on kill mode for Jake Sully and his family. Especially, he kept calling out Neytiri during their fight. So we shall see if Quaritch will ever be turned back. And also the relationship with this sea tribe with Jake. They kind of welcomed officially. Jake was like, we've caused you enough trouble. We are out of here. And they're like, since you buried your son here, I mean, you're now one of us. So now I don't think we're going to have any more movies where we're going to be learning about new tribes. I think this is going to be it. They're just going to be part of these sea people, which I think is very exciting moving forward. A lot of great new characters. Obviously, Kate Winslet and Cliff Curtis, who run this area. And it'll be interesting to see if humans keep becoming villains. Will other tribes get involved? I'm really fascinated in the threat because the stakes were so high in this movie. It's gonna be interesting to see how they continue keeping the stakes high, at least for the next 2-3 films in this franchise. Again, it's crazy. Every other year, you're gonna have a big Avatar film near Christmas time. James Cameron really committing the rest of his career on this franchise as the next film. So you have Avatar 3 coming out in 2024, Avatar 4 in 2026, and then Avatar 5 is listed for 2020. So at least 3 more films out of this franchise. So the reports are that Avatar 3 has already been shot, and there's already technically a 9-hour cut of this film already done. So I would expect a lot more promotion, actually, maybe midway through 2023, maybe with a little teaser trailer, and start building up the hype, because we're going to talk about the box office as well today or tomorrow on this channel. So that's my breakdown fully of Avatar: The Way of Water. I love this film, and I want to keep talking about it with you guys in the comment section down below if you are interested in talking about the full spoilers. What did you actually not like the film? I saw the film with 2 people who loved the first film and were very disappointed by this film, and I was good. I thought the first one was good. I thought this was great. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this film, and do you think this is actually a improvement over the groundbreaking original films? That's my thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water in spoiler fashion. More videos to come, including a box office breakdown show, a review of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and other reviews are coming soon. So I'll see you guys soon.